And we'll start. When you are working with multi-step equations, you had a small glimpse of this in the 1.2 homework. Okay? But the 1.3 is the same thing except a little more advanced. You are going to have to make decisions when you're solving these types of problems. And the decision should be based off of two things. Are you on the same side of the equal sign? Or are you on opposite sides of the equal sign? And I'm going to put the equal sign right here in the middle, just like this. There's the same side of the equal sign, and then there's the opposite side. And this is really important because if you're on the same side of something, you don't do things when they're on opposite sides. And when they're on opposite sides, you don't do the things that you do when they're on the same side. And that's really, really important for you to understand. I'll explain in a second, but first, if it's on the same side, the first thing that we're going to try to do, I'm going to underline this same side real quick. If it's on the same side, the first thing that we try to do is something we did earlier, combine like terms. That's the first thing we're going to try to do. If you can, combine like terms. X's with X's, Y's with Y's, numbers with numbers. Only if they're on the same side. You should always try that first. If that doesn't work, or if you can't do that, the second thing you are going to try is distribute using the distributive property. Distribute we use when there's something in parentheses that we cannot combine because they're not like terms. What we talked about in 1.1 was if we have parentheses and we can't put those two things together, the only thing we can do to get rid of the parentheses is to distribute. Otherwise, like the donut rule. Do you remember that? After we distribute, we might be able to combine like terms again. So I'm going to put here distribute. Underneath distribute, I'm going to put a little dot right there underneath there. And I'm going to put combine like terms again. Because after you do this, you might be able to do this again. And then, if you can't do anything else on the same side, so we've tried this, we've tried this, we've tried this, we might have to go and do something that's on the opposite sides of each other. So we try these things first, and then we're going to go over here and do something if they're on opposite sides. Let's call this number 3. Let's get the variables on the same side of the equal sign. Get the variables on the same side of the equal sign. Sometimes you're going to have like a 3x on this side of the equal sign, and you're going to have a 5x on this side of the equal sign. 3x on one side and a 5x on the other. And if you have something where there's a variable on the right side of the equal sign, and you have a variable on the left side of the equal sign, you're going to need to move something. And when you do, you'll do the opposite of it and move it from one side of the equal sign to the other. When we do that, our goal is to, number 4, get the variable by itself. you're going to do the opposite of addition and subtraction. You always do that first. Scoot it over a little bit. There you go. Get the variable by itself. We're going to do the opposite of addition and subtraction. I recommend doing that first. And then number 5, do the opposite of multiplication and division last. So these are the rules that we're going to try to use to solve these problems. We're going to try to do things on the same side first. And then what we're going to try to do is do things from the opposite side to organize everything. And we're going to be going pretty much in these order of these how this is laid out. Let's do an example. Okay, let's start off with a hard example. I don't like to start with easy examples, so let's go ahead and start with a hard example. This is our example number 1. And then off to the left-hand side, I'm going to write a 12 in a circle. Bless you. Why am I putting a 12 there? You should remember this from last time. It's on the worksheet, and it's number 12 from your worksheet that we'll be doing in a little bit, right? Okay. And example 1 says 18 minus 6a equals 4a minus 4 parentheses a plus 3 end of parenthesis. I'll give you time to write that down. What I'm hoping you're going to do after you write this down, here's an equal sign. What I mean when I look at your notes and it says same side and opposite side, we're going to try to see if we can do things that are on the same side first, and we're going to try to do 1 and 2 if we can. So let's look at our example. I'll put this back up there. I'm going to cover up the right side of the equal sign. I'm just looking at the left side. Let's look at number 1. Can I combine these two things? Can I put 18 minus 6a together? No. Because they are not like terms. They're not like terms. So we cannot do number 1. Can we distribute anything there? We only distribute when there are parentheses and two things that don't. So I can't do any of this on the left side of the equal sign. Let's cover up the left side. Let's look at the right side. Can I combine like terms? Can I put this a and the 3 together? Those are not like terms. There's no a's in the 3. I can only put a's together with other a's. Can I put the 4a and take away 4 from that 4a? No. If this has a 4, this has a 4, it doesn't make it like terms. Like terms have the same variables. That's what we wrote down in the 1.1 notes. These are not like terms. So we can't do number 1. We cannot combine like terms. Can we do number 2? Yes. Good. So what am I going to distribute? Okay. Does this negative 4 only go to the a? No. Do you only give donuts to half of the room? No. What else do I have to do? Okay. So here's what I want you to do. When you're doing problems, you're going to write everything exactly the same as you do the problem. For example, the 18 doesn't change. We haven't done anything to it. Then minus 6a hasn't changed. Write that down. The equal sign hasn't changed. Write it down. The 4a hasn't changed. Write it down. We just write everything from left to right. And I'm going to put a little side note over here on this column. And I'm going to say, write everything down. Because really, that says write everything down. It's really small handwriting because it's a small note to myself. The mistakes that are made in Math 1 aren't because students don't know what they're doing. It's because people refuse to write things down. Just write it down and you're less likely to make mistakes. Okay, help me out. What's negative 4 and then the a? I heard someone say negative 4a. I like that. And then what should I write next?
Negative 12.
I agree with you. So what we have done is we've tried number 1, it didn't work. We tried number 2, we've distributed. And now I'm looking, can I combine any like terms now?
Yes.
And are they on the same side of the equal sign or are they on the opposite side of the equal sign? Wait a second. So what are my 2 like terms? Which letters? Let's see. Or what numbers and letters are our like terms? Okay, so I'm going to circle these 2 things. Are those 2 things on the same side or are they on opposite sides?
Same side.
And when I say that, we're looking at the equal sign. Here's the equal sign. They're on the same side. If they're on the same side, we're just supposed to combine like terms. That just means put them together. I can't tell you how many students want to do the opposite. You're not supposed to do the opposite here. You're just supposed to put them together. What is 4a minus 4a? Put them together. I'm going to put 0a right there because 4a take away 4a is 0a. And what's 0 times a? 0. And do I really need to write 0 minus 12? I really don't. So I can just cross off the 0 if I don't want to. Now, just like before, I want to write everything down that hasn't changed. The 18 hasn't changed on this side. The minus 6a hasn't changed on this side. The equal sign stays in the same spot. And then this minus 12 is there, and it's by itself because the 0a just doesn't even matter anymore. Do I have any terms I can combine here? Anything else over here I can combine? So we're done basically with what we can do on the same side. Now what we have to do is do things that are on opposite sides. We want to try to get the variables on the same side of the equal sign. Let's see. Are there any variables on both sides of the equal sign? Because these ones went away. Otherwise, we would try to move these over if they were on the same side. They're not. I don't need to worry about number 3. I'm going to go to number 4. Get the variable by itself. So what that means is this. I want to get this a by itself. I'm going to underline that a. That's what I'm trying to get by itself. Right now, that a has a partner. That negative 6 is multiplying that a. It's together with that a. So we're going to save that 6a for last. The very first thing we want to get rid of on number 4, it says get the variable by itself. Do the opposite of addition and subtraction first. What does that mean? That means in this problem, I want you to get rid of this 18. Keep the partner and save the partner for last. I'm going to put that off to the side. Save the partner for last. And the partner in this example was negative 6a. Or negative 6 is the partner. If I want to move the 18, right now I have this equation. I can do the opposite of 18. This 18 is it positive or is this negative, this 18?
Positive.
So the opposite of a positive 18 is? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a negative 18 on the left side of the equal sign. And I'm going to put a minus 18 on the right side of the equal sign. And then I'm going to draw this line like this because I'm going to put things together. And we're using a rule of algebra here. We're using a rule that says whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you do to the other. It is the fundamental principle of algebra. So I'm going to put a little star right here because what we're doing is this. Put a little star. Whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we do to the other. That is a fundamental number one rule of algebra. Whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we do to the other. So in our problem, we had a positive 18. We subtracted 18. And whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I do to the other. Now let's combine like terms. 18 minus 18. What does that make?
0.
Do you want to write 0? If you do, you can. You don't need to. What I do is I say this cancels out with that, and I just draw lines through it. I know it makes 0. That's how I show my work. And then this hasn't changed. Minus 6a hasn't changed. Equal hasn't changed. And then I have this negative 12 and negative 18.
Negative 30.
Tell the person you're sitting next to what you think it is.
Negative 30. Because I don't do my head.
If you are not good with your negatives and positives, I showed you this last time. There is a negative button on your calculators. You can use this to double check. Negative 12. The negative button is right here on the calculator. Minus 18. And it knows if you're at a negative 12 and you go to the left 18 units, it will be a negative 30. And that makes negative 30 right there. Negative 6a equals negative 30. The last step, we do the opposite of whatever the partner is. This negative 6 is multiplying the a. This is multiplying because when there's a number next to a letter, it always means multiply. The opposite of multiplying is? Divide. And I can't tell you how many students, they look at this, they say, why aren't I adding? Why am I not putting plus 6? That's a minus 6. Why am I not putting plus 6? Because there's a number next to a letter. When there's a number next to a letter, it means it's multiplying it. This negative 6 is multiplying the a. And the opposite of multiplying is divide. This is how I write divide. I wrote a little fraction. And I write negative 6. I don't just want to get rid of the 6, I want to get rid of the negative as well. So I'm going to divide by negative 6. And a little star. What does a star mean?
Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other.
Yeah, that's what you wrote on your notes. A, and what happens here, 6 divided by 6 makes 1. Negative divided by negative makes a positive. And then what do we have? We have a is equal to. This is actually technically 1 times a. And that's the multiplicative identity. So we know that it has to be a equals what number?
5.
If you are not good with your negatives and positives, remember how we had negative 30 right in there? Divided by negative 5. Calculators are really good about negatives divided by negatives. And when you punch it in correctly. Wait a second, what did I do? I did it wrong, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I should have been dividing by 6. Wait, I messed up there.
Just restart it. Just restart it.
Negative 30 divided by negative, what number?
6.
Thank you, because I'm covering up the problem. There we go. Goodness gracious. Okie dokie. Circle my answer. By the way, this is an excellent time for you to double check your work. What we can do, since we know what A is equal to, we go, oh, A is 5. I can take the 5, I can plug it back in, and I can see if it works. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 18 minus 6 times 5. 18 minus 6 times 5. And I'm going to see what that is. This left side is negative 12. Okay, if I plug that in, that's what I should get. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to plug the 5 in here. I'm going to write that in. 4 times A, what was A? 5 minus 4. And guess what? Our calculator actually has a parenthesis button, doesn't it? So I'm going to press the parenthesis. And what was A? Plus 3. And end of parenthesis. What should this be equal to? What did we get on the other side? Oh, we're right. I know for 100% fact we are right because I plugged it in and I checked. You can check all your answers in 1.3 if you want to see if you are right. And you will know without a doubt whether you are right or whether you are wrong. Let's do one more example. And then we'll start our worksheet.
How about you let us do this example by ourselves?
I thought about it.
Can we? This is easy.
What did you ask them?
Could do this example by ourselves. It's too easy.
I'm glad that you feel it is too easy. This is example 2. And then I put in the little bubble. That is 2 because it goes with number 2 on your worksheet. (5p plus 6 equals 4p minus 8). Let me see. The first thing we are going to try to do is, Gracie, what's the first thing we're going to try to do? We're going to try to combine like terms. I like it. Gracie, can we combine like terms here? Gracie, can we combine like terms here? So we cannot combine like terms. We cannot do number 1. So the second thing we're going to try to do, Riley, is what? Well, since Riley's confused, let's look at what the second thing is that we're supposed to try to do. Let's use our notes so we know what we're supposed to try to do. Wonderful. He says distribute. Can you distribute anything here, Riley? No. So what we're doing is we're going back up to our notes and looking and using these notes to guide us on how to do all the problems. Riley, I'm not trying to trick you. I am trying to see if you can use your notes to guide you on how to do the problems. The third thing we try to do, Mark, is what we're supposed to try to do?
Which Mark?
Ooh, that's a good question, huh? Mark Green.
Combine 5p
Combine 5p
and 4p.
and 4p. Wait. What is the third thing supposed to...
Combine like 2. Oh, no.
Let's read number 3. Let's see what you wrote.
Get variables from the same side of the equal sign.
We need to get variables on the same side of the equal sign. Are these p's, the 4 p's, are they on the same side as the 5 p's? So these two things are on opposite sides of each other, aren't they? And you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to decide, do I want to move the 5p this way or the 4p this way? And I would always recommend to you, whatever gives you a positive partner is probably what you want to do. Meaning, if you subtract 5p over here, you're going to get 4p minus 5p, and you'll get a negative p. You don't want to have a negative p, you want a positive p. So if you subtract 4p over there, it'll be positive. What's easier to move, 4p's or 5p's? Move the 4p's. We're going to move this group together. And what's the opposite of a positive 4p?
Negative.
And we're going to move both things together. The 4p, positive 4p minus 4p, that will make 0 on that side. But whatever, let me put a little star here. What does a star mean?
Whatever you do to one side, you need to do to the other.
Exactly. So I need to write minus 4p on the left side of the equal sign as well. I'm going to draw a little line. And I'm going to combine these two things together. 5p minus 4p. Adeline, what does that make?
1p.
She says 1p. I'm going to put the 1 like this, though, Adeline. I'm going to put it dotted.
That's not dotted.
1p, because 1 times p, 1 times 10 is 10. 1 times 100 is 100. 1 times p is p. It's easiest to write, okay, that's what p is. You don't need to write the 1. The plus 6 didn't do anything, so it just comes down. Plus 6 equals, Eric's right there. Eric, what's 4p minus 4p?
0p.
Do I need to write 0p?
No.
Nope. So what are we going to write on the right-hand side?
Negative
I like it. We're not done, though, because we don't have p equal something. We only stop when we get the variable by itself, and we only stop when we know what the variable is equal to. P equals what? So I have to move one more thing. Savannah, what am I going to move next? We will move the 6. What are you going to do to move the 6? So what am I writing underneath here? And then what do I write over here? And I'll put a little star. What does a star mean? Whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we do to the other. Draw a line. P plus 6 minus 6. Let me go to Sarah. Hi, Sarah. What does this make?
0.
Do you want to write 0?
No.
So what should I write? Agreed. For this piece right here, Sophie, what should I write right here for this piece?
Equals
Negative 14. I agree. That is our final answer.